extra button now. Hey, they changed some things in there. It's got I can add a video to start the show with. I can do. They shut that off. The echo chamber. Good morning, if anybody's out there. Hello, hello. Oh, so you've been keeping up with the rodeo?
I have not. I might need my season tickets revoked.
You might. You need your. It's somebody we used to say pee whack for that, buddy. I got a little mad at him last night. I thought that
we're round 3.
There's McNeil. Stetson's having a really good comeback, which is good. I'm glad, he is. But first night he won both rounds he was in, and then last night I think he got a little bit of favoritism last night. He won the bull riding.
It's the blue shirt, dude.
Huh?
It's the blue shirt effect.
Well, they had four good rides.
And they joke about it amongst themselves. They're like, well, yeah, we get like 5 extra points because these blue shirts we wear.
I swear last night he did. He came off his bull. He was on it long enough to count, but his last few bucks were almost on the bull's head, and he won. I mean, there were 3 other really good rides, but he got bumped up above them, and I just thought that was a little bit obvious. You're here. Tina says we're here. How are you? Hey, good morning, Chuck. If you're out there, there's Ian.
There he is.
I expect that. And there's Jason Thibodeau. Good morning, Jason. Ian, we expect that slip, and if it's not, if it doesn't arrive within the first 5 minutes of class, you will have to go stand out in the hall.
with your forehead against the wall.
Against the wall, or we'll stick you in the locker. That's what we need. We need a cabinet in the hall, and it's already got people get stuck in the cabinet. I'll go see. He's going to go assume the position.
Mr. Chuck's in the house.
Mr. Chuck is in the house. Anyway, but there's rodeo's going pretty good. I mean, it's been interesting.
How's
really close? There's some really close races this year to see who finishes up. The steer wrestling's been pretty intense. Oh, tie down roping's been real good too. Shad Mayfield came to play this year. Apparently, he's fired up. Everybody talks about how good he is all season long, but when he gets to the NFR, he struggles, which is not uncommon. But this year, he seems like he came to play. He brought his A game, I think. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Good morning, Miss Carol.
We were just catching up here.
What network are you watching it on?
Cowboy Channel. They started putting the Cowboy Channel on my cable recently. It just popped on, and
good for you.
Yeah, well, that's the first.
I figured it was on the Cowboy Channel, but
yeah, I don't know if anybody else is. Well, RFD, I guess.
Flint used to do that little live show, that little comedy kind of, question and answer kind of a deal. Yeah. He's back to doing that again, I guess, 15 minutes a day, but it's on his YouTube channel. I don't know what.
Oh, I'll have to look for that then.
I've been just catching snippets of what's going on.
They've got a lot of decent shows on all day long now, leading up to the event, and I've been letting it play in the background a lot just to kind of watch it and keep up. And some of it's good, some of it's just frivolous stuff. It's better than what they used to have in the past. I think some of them. But you made me think of something now. Flint. The only thing I've seen him doing
He
on
does
their
the buckle ceremony.
buckle ceremony. Yeah, him and what's his noodle? Oklahoma.
What's
Mr.
his?
Kiev.
Huh?
The guy that says Kiev, or Calf,
Oh, Joe Beaver.
Joe Beaver.
I
You
think
know,
he's a Texican.
uh,
I think he's a Texican.
I thought he lived. Well, maybe he is. I thought he lived in
He might
Oklahoma.
live in Oklahoma now, but
You're probably right. I don't know why I thought Oklahoma. Anyway, I didn't realize it, but this is the 40th anniversary of them moving to Vegas.
really,
Yeah, and Joe that's the year he made the NFR. I don't think he ever made the one in. Maybe that's why I'm thinking Oklahoma. I don't know if he ever made one in Oklahoma, but he made the one out there, and then he won. Then he won a bunch of stuff, and they started calling it the house that Joe built, or Beaver Joe. I guess it was the house that Joe built. It's what they used to laugh kid about it, because I guess he was one of the first big stars when they moved to Vegas. Hey, Dave. Good morning, Dave's Disney Dreams. Did I see somebody else? I said hi to Jason. I said hi to, I think, Dave. I think it's up.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Anyway,
You said howdy to Mr. Thibodeau.
so Joe was, they were talking about that because they've been talking about all the things that happened that first year, because it's the 40th anniversary of that event, and what a big deal it was to move it. I didn't realize exactly how that went down, but apparently they have a board of directors. I don't know who.
Well, Flint was saying that they moved it mainly because of geography.
Well, they probably did. But they voted on it. It was 5-5 in the board of directors to move, and somebody stepped in that was, I guess, the president of the organization, and broke the tie, and they ended up out there, which has probably been, money wise and stuff, for everybody. It's probably been the best thing they ever did. I don't think they ever got the same amount of.
Well, and they talked about how far, when it was in Oklahoma City. Well, the venue was not much,
Right.
and
That's what I remember.
when they decided to move it, one of the reasons given was because, Oklahoma City was great if you were from Kansas or Oklahoma or Texas.
Yeah.
But if you were from even as far away, New Mexico, it was kind of a big deal to get there, because they didn't make that much money in those days.
No, they didn't.
And if you were like a California cowboy or from the Northwest, you just couldn't afford to go.
Yeah, it wasn't worth the trip. But anyway,
so they centralized it, which is weird to say, by putting it in Las Vegas. And
yeah, most of the people are from out that way. They're not from the East anyway, most of them.
And Las Vegas is like, they talk to them about it, and they're like, well, heck yeah, we want you.
Well, and Las Vegas has grown in leaps and bounds since then too, and I'm sure they played some role in that, because that's when they started getting big events like that.
Yeah.
And, we're talking about the National Finals Rodeo, and you guys have been here. Some of you regulars know this is a kind of an annual topic, because it's that time of year again. So we were just catching up a little bit.
So how did Ryder do?
He's doing okay, but the first night, there's a couple of things that have changed. First night, he got flagged for not marking the horse out, which he's terrible about. I mean, he's such a good rider, but he constantly gets flagged. I mean, I can remember one year when he got flagged like 4 or 5
rounds in a row.
And and he was winning when he was riding, but they couldn't seem to mark him out. Well, this year they've introduced replay on that review. I guess not really replay, but a review.
I heard they were going to do that.
And he got marked. He got marked the first night for not marking out the horse, or he got flagged. And they went back and reviewed it, and he had marked the horse out, so he got it back. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that part of review is good. They're using it on a couple of things. I can't remember what the other thing was, but they can use it. But I mean, it's not something they're just using on everything. But that is one of the things. And they're also scoring quarter points, which I didn't realize they really weren't doing. But I guess that makes sense. But now, because they've in 2 or 3 of the events which have been really close, they've decided they need to, I guess, tune the scoring in a little bit finer, because there's too much competition. There's too many people who are getting rounded up or down and not, so they're hoping that this. Some people don't like it. I'm like, why wouldn't you? I mean, probably makes it more fair. But anyway, I never have entirely understood how they set and score some of that stuff anyway. I mean, they explain it all the time. I know what they're looking at, but it gets scored, so it varies so much. Seems like it's anytime you get those kind of sporting events where it's subjective scores, I've always thought they were kind of iffy anyway. That's one thing I like about timed events, and
yeah, the rough stock end is tougher, but they've got 4 judges, so it's not just one guy,
right?
And it's part to the cowboy, part to the critter. If the horse or bull has a bad day and doesn't perform, they might even get a rewrite out of the deal.
Oh, you might, yeah. That does. They've had
which you can see when later in the rodeo, you see them saying, "Well, you're going to get a rewrite," and they're like, you look at the cowboy's face, he's like, "I don't want a rewrite."
Yeah, that's true.
I'll take the 79 points, thanks.
I can't hardly walk now. Why I don't want to get on another one? After 8 days of that, most of them can't hardly move. Oh, me. So anybody got football today? I mean, is there anybody? I think today's like the not playoffs, but like the SEC championship games today. It seems like I don't know, does the Big Ten do that, Carol? I don't know. I know Ohio State beat Michigan badly, I think, last weekend in rivalry. The Army-Navy game, I think it is today. I meant to look that up before I got on. I usually try to watch that game. Go Army.
Go Navy. Sorry.
Well, Ed was in the Army. I got to root for, I got to at least root for him for that a little bit. I do think that Dave said go Navy.
And Dad was in the department of the Navy, but the men's department. So
I worked with I ran around with you guys and your dad, so I heard the Marine side of that discussion a lot from you guys. But then in Nashville, I worked with a couple of Navy guys, and so I got to hear the other side, their version of all those things that the Marines and the Navy discuss or argue about. Sometimes playfully, sometimes not so much.
Kind of depends on how much alcoholic beverages they've consumed.
Yeah. It's a little bit like Wookalar. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit like Wookalar sightings. It's relative. I don't think Michigan plays today. You could argue that they didn't really play last week. I meant to watch that game, Carol, and then I heard the score, and I thought, wow, that's I thought it'd be a better game than that. So I'm sure Mark's aunts were really excited. I can only imagine how excited they were.
I wouldn't even wanted to been in the same building with that bunch.
No, but they won, so they were probably happy.
No, I'm sure they were ecstatic, but they would have been making so much noise you couldn't have heard
Oh,
for
yeah.
shit blank.
I'd like to watch that from a distance.
And I'm hard of hearing, but I can hear them when they get going.
I'd like to put a hidden cam. I'd like to sit back from another with a camera and watch them watching an Ohio game, just to for the entertainment value. I bet it's a hoot. I just can't imagine those three women that I've known a little bit. I just can't. My mind, I can't flip flop them around to rabid football fans or Ohio State fans. They just don't seem to fit somehow.
Yeah, I've talked about their mother, my grandmother, was a psychotic Cincinnati Reds fan.
Yeah. Red stockings, wasn't it?
And my red legs.
Red legs, yeah.
And my grandpa would go like, I'm going up on the hill, or she's in there yelling at the television set again.
So he just left the house.
He'd just leave, he'd go plow or do something.
Carol says Ohio State will be playing Indiana tonight. That might be a good football game because Indiana actually had a good
number 2 right now, aren't they? Indiana's number 2 right now, I think
they are. They've had a really good season. I mean, I think they lost one game, maybe. I'm not even sure about that. They may be undefeated. I can't remember. I know they were undefeated late in the season. They're usually not worth. I know a couple people that went to Indiana and are from Indiana, and they thought it was hilarious because Indiana's never been any good, and they thought it was a joke early in the season, and then they kept winning, and they were, had something to cheer about.
They're even my daughters out here in Wyoming are like, it's time for maybe Ohio State to lose this year.
Does she say that when she
because we won't? I mean, we don't even play in that league, but our boys were hard pressed this year.
I think I was kind of curious about. I think it's which one? Is Jimmy Mississippi State?
No, John.
John.
Oh no! Don't ever say that if you're rounding.
Oh, that's right. He's Ole Miss. I'm sorry.
He's Ole Miss, and I always gig him. I see where Mississippi State won. You should be pretty ecstatic.
Well, I look, but I think they lost their coach.
They did.
Yeah, I thought so.
They did, and he ain't happy. And
hey, tell him that's okay. Ask him what he thinks it would felt like if he just left in the middle of the night and just disappeared.
I told him that. I said, that's the dude that just like snuck out of town.
He did.
On Tennessee.
Yeah, the sad part.
Where did he sneak to this time?
I think LSU. So he actually stayed in the conference. Miss fans will get the throat stuff
So he went to one of their mortal enemies. So.
Oh yeah. Well, they were trying to get him, and he wouldn't. He kept saying, "Oh no, I'm not gonna," and he kept saying it ain't about the money, which I'm pretty sure I call BS on. But anyway, because he said, I want to know if I'll be able to pay my players. I want to know how much money I'm going to be able to, which means I want to know if I can get all the good players, if I got enough money to get all the good players. But anyway, that's another subject altogether. But
don't get me started.
he anyway, he kept putting it off because depending on who won last week, like between Alabama and whoever and Auburn and and Georgia and somebody else, all those things depending on whether Ole Miss would get to play in the championship game this weekend between, I think Georgia. I think Georgia is the other winner, the other team, and he said, "Oh no, I'm not going to." But the whole time he already had made up his mind, but he kept acting like he hadn't. But then he finally came out. He said, "Well, if they, I want to make sure I go to that game." And as soon as they knew they weren't going, he was, he was. I think he was out there. I mean, they already. I don't know how much money LSU offered him, but I bet it was a ton. There's John Surfbum. I don't know if my wife's in the room or not, but you can say hi. She might be.
I hope, John, that it's perfect fishing weather.
Oh,
it's not here. It's not here. It's going to be perfect ice fishing weather pretty darn quick.
I don't know if you can catch. He's been catching some nice stripers. I'm not sure you can catch big stripers under the ice. Well, you might could in some places.
We catch 50, 55-pound lake trout through the ice.
No, that's true.
I don't. I catch little ones.
You guys, I mean, is there any place? I got stuff popping open here. Hang on just a minute.
I had a buddy that hooked a big old lake trout one day down on Flaming Gorge, and he got it up to the hole, and it would not fit through the hole. So I had a spud bar and was carefully trying to chip that hole out a little bit bigger.
And without cracking the whole ice?
No. It hadn't. The ice was 12 inches thick. Okay. And I was just real careful trying, and I hit that line, and we did a soft release.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. He would have put him back anyway, and I'm like, dude, I'm counting him.
He counts.
I was there. He counts.
The
guy had a belly on
him. Do you guys have enough ice in lakes that freeze over deep enough that people have fish houses they drag out on the water, or is that not a thing out there?
So the big deal out here, yeah, there's ice huts set up all over the place, but they don't have like a Minnesota, Wisconsin kind of a, big old wooden shanty that you drag out there on skids.
Uh-huh.
It's a that they leave on the shore of the lake year round, until it's ice time. They have more portable ice huts, and two of my family have these insulated. They're like a I don't know, 10 by 10 tent, and you can stand up in them, which is nice, and put a little heater in them, which is way nice.
Yeah.
And they've got kind of a quilted insulated wall.
Huh.
And you literally, like, so we have a fish out here called a burbot or a ling.
Yeah.
Ling cod, and you fish for them at night, and you might have, you got 3 or 4 holes inside the ice house, and then you might have another 12 rigs set up outside, and so you're going in and out all night long. And boy, that stepping out of that ice hut is a big deal. It's like Jimmy and I went one time. It was 30 below zero, and for real, and just dead calm, 30 below zero. we caught like 3 fish all night long. I'm like, this is stupid.
I'd have to consider.
But we still have a ton of guys that go out there and just sit on a 5-gallon bucket and fish away.
I always thought the ice shack thing looked like it probably could be fun to do if you were in a good spot and caught a few fish. But of course, obviously,
I've been in that hut where Jimmy's hut, at least, where we piled them up, but that one particular night was a disaster. Excuse me.
Where did I see that? Oh yeah, that is it. John said he got some clams the other day, though. So that's good. And then Tina had something here I was going to pull up. Tina, I wasn't ignoring you. I was just waiting. Lake Saranac, 20 below zero. Oh, wow. Speaking of weather, did you guys hear that we beat Alaska for coal this week? I can't, is that Scanatellis? I don't know how to say that. Lake. Oh, that's what she said. No, it was Saranac Lake. Was colder than the northernmost part of Alaska. And again, I'm going to assume it's Saranac Lake is southwest of you guys. So how cold was it at your place then, Tina? Was it 22 below where you live? That's pretty cold. I remember it's, whoa, lost him. I remember one year it got that cold here, but it was, New York for the wind. And Carol, was it cold in Michigan when it was that cold in New York, or is that just one of those little fluke icy fingers from the north that came down and touched him? I'll assume he'll be back in a second. We'll just hang loose in the meantime. I hope he makes it back because I've got my show, and if he don't get back, I'm probably just going to do it without him this week. I've been holding it. Good morning, Melody Short Music. Thanks for dropping by. I'm thinking maybe your name is Melody Short, and the music's what's the right word? Hobby or favorite thing you do, or perhaps you even make a living that way. Well, good morning, Adventures by Dave. We got another Dave in the house. They were down to -2 overnight with a real feel of -7. That's cold enough. We got down in the 20s the other night, but we've not been anywhere near minus. And I don't know that we are being awful. Tina says it was 4 below at her place. And I'll get over here and do it. And Saranac is north of us. Foothills of the Adirondack. Yeah, I thought I kind of knew part of that. And Saranac Lake is in the Adirondack. I wonder what the altitude is. I don't know. I've never really looked that up to see what elevation. Yes, you guys going north is not. I mean, obviously it's going north, but further west you get in the country, it gets higher and higher and higher. That's why Mark lives at 7,000 feet above sea level. Good morning, Julie McCowan. Thanks for dropping by. And let me get, now I'm cleaned up. I sure hope he makes it back. Last Friday we had around 9 inches of snow. I thought you guys were going to get snow. I don't know if I knew you had already gotten it or not. Maybe I did. We had a flurry a couple weeks ago, and that's probably about what we'll get this year. If it snows here, it probably won't happen till possibly the end of the month or January. It usually doesn't snow here until January or so. Alexa says the altitude is 1550. Okay, they're about the same as us then in that regard. Oh, it's Saranac. Okay. Well, this part of the country, we range from probably 9 something to 1,500, maybe, and higher on top of the mountains, but most of the flat land is. I think the airport, when I was working in Tri-Cities, I think the airport up there, the airport elevation, I believe, was 1,500 feet. That may just be in my mind. I couldn't be wrong, but I know it was over. Pretty sure it was over 1,000. Okay, let's see what happened. That was Mr. Mark. Let's see if he's down and out for the day. I hope not. Oh, their electricity just went off. Oh no. Hang on just a minute. No wonder he disappeared so hard. Well, we'll give him a few minutes and see if he gets back on. Johnson, we're 23 feet above sea level. Yeah, I'd call that seaside too. I don't even know how you get that high unless it's because they piled up dirt. The parts that I was in, New Jersey, Delaware area, was, if it was 5 feet above sea level, I'm pretty sure I was standing on an anthill or something. Yeah, I think they've got gas heat mostly. I don't know if they can hook up. I don't know if they can burn wood too or not. They had a stove, or they've got a wood burning stove, and that's more ornamental than used. But I think he told me one time if push came to shove, they could build a fire in it because it's still hooked up to the chimney and everything. But I don't know if that's. Hopefully, that won't be an issue. Ian says he's 5,800 above. Mark still got you beat, buddy. He's 7,000 plus where his house says. And it looks flat like John's country, but it's not. It's way high. So you've got the Mile High City beat. Yeah, it's always it is kind of funny. Mark makes fun of it a lot, but I used to joke about it too a little bit. They brag so much about Denver being the Mile High City, and there's so many places around Denver and and all the other parts of the mountains out there that are way higher than that. That's very true. You are, Ian. That's very true. Did your power go out too? One of the things about living where Mark does, if the power goes out, it may be a while before they get somebody out there to fix it. So hopefully it's something they fix easily and fast. Ian, play nice now. But you're. I'm sure there's more people that live in Denver than live in all the state of Wyoming, or pretty close to it anyway. I can't remember. I used to know the number, but it's just, Wyoming doesn't get to the million mark. They're 100,000 something, like 400,000 people, or maybe it's more than that now. But there's more people that live in Knoxville than live in the whole state of Wyoming. I'm pretty sure. Yes, to Mark, that's a good thing. Mark is One of the main reasons he lives where he lives is there's nobody out there. So let's go on. I'll move on to some other business. Dang, I hope he makes it back. I really do. I really wanted to let him get involved in this topic. I don't know. I'll move on to something else for a minute. Some of you heard, and some of you probably have not. But I had a death in my family this week, and I wasn't sure if I'd be on today. There was a possibility they would have the funeral services today, but they decided to. They put that off until tomorrow because family had to get into town, and some of them were traveling from, I know, Fort Myers, Florida. Her son. It's my aunt. I keep wanting to say my last relative that was on the generation of my dad, but there's technically not true. He had a sister. He has a sister. I have another aunt who's much younger than them. She's still around, but this aunt would have been my last. What seems like my mom and dad's generation, I guess, and married to his brother, my Uncle Rex. Anyway, she passed away. What is today? I think she passed away the 2nd, whatever day that was. Today's the 6th, so about 4 days ago. And so her youngest son, or her son, has several kids, and maybe, I don't know if her kids are old enough to have kids, but he lives in Fort Myers, Florida, and that's where they all are, and they were trying to get them all up here. And then her oldest daughter, these are all my cousins, of course. As far as I know, she still lives in Northern Virginia, and I think they were coming in. And then my other cousin lived across the road from her on some originally been family property. And I don't know, she was 92, so I think she outlived all of them. I mean, age wise. And my Uncle Rex died. I thought he died young. He had rheumatoid arthritis, the bad kind, whatever it is, and had a really hard time the last few years, and that got him. I think that's what ultimately, and he died earlier because he was younger than my dad, and he died several years before my dad did. And of course, one of my other uncles, dad's only other brother, passed away earlier this year, I believe. Can't remember the dates now. So anyway, Brenda and I'll be going up there probably tomorrow. Fortunately, not fortunately, they're not that far from us, so it's a short drive. Whoa, my glasses fogged up. 40 miles or so, or 40 minutes or so. So we'll be going over there, but I thought we might be going up today, but I'm almost afraid. I hesitate to go over there because after I started counting, sons, daughters, grandchildren, I don't think there's any great grandchildren yet, but they're all there, and if they're all staying in the house, and then it would be a very packed house. So we decided to wait until we heard a little bit more about what's going on. So that happened earlier this week, and I'm not trying to be flippant about any of it, but it's we're okay. I'm okay. I liked my aunt. We knew her as Kitten. Her name was Hilda. Of course, we always called her. I just knew her as Kitten, and I wish I could have gone back and asked some questions. Though it was kind of weird, kind of strange how they got together. My mom lived not too far from where I live now, but really in one county, very rural, uh, back in the holler. And at some point, she left town and went to work in a mill in Greenville, which was where we were going to move into. We bought that house that had the old law office on it, and I believe that's where she met my aunt Kitten. My mom's best friend was Kitten's sister, I believe. And this has all been so long ago since we discussed all this, and I don't know if that's how she met my dad, and maybe my aunt Kitten met my uncle Rex. I don't know if that's where the nexus was exactly. I'd like to remember thought I'd go ask her about that while she was still good. And uh, she was still a very sharp wit and mind. Thank goodness when she passed. It seemed like it was kind of sudden, actually. Like I said, she was 92, but I don't think they were expecting it, from what I've been told. So, anyway, yeah, so we're going to be doing that tomorrow and probably Monday morning. I think Monday morning's when they're going to have the graveside service or whatever they're going to do. So we'll probably write up for that too. I think we'll see. I hadn't talked to my brother about it yet. I'm sure he's going, but I don't know what their plans are. We haven't seen them lately, so and this is something we talked about, not here, my family at different times, um, and I'm sure this is common with families, especially these days, because people tend to get more far flung. But the sad truth is, most of the time when we would have large gatherings of family was because of a funeral. People would come in from all over the place if somebody passed, and it seems like that's the only time people had a chance to, hate to say, or a reason, but significant enough to leave work, leave home, travel perhaps great distances, and we're during funerals. And I know one of my other cousins and I were sitting around talking about that one time, and it's true. I sat down and wrote a little story the other day about it. That's it's one of those kind of things that sparks my desire, or um, makes me want to sit down and write. And again, unfortunately, but it makes memories flood through, and I can actually put pen to paper. And I was just that topic was, you get that phone call in the middle of the night, and it's the one you always dread. And I don't know, I kind of had a bad feeling as soon as I saw who it was, because it was my Aunt Molly, and we just, usually we don't talk that often. And I don't know, it was an odd time of day, and I thought something's going on here. Unfortunately, like I said, that generation is just about gone. I don't know if that's how it is with everybody else here, but um, and it's sad to me, because I should have done a much better job of gathering stories and tales. And I've told Mark jokes about it, but a couple of my uncles on my mom's side used to tell tall tales on a regular basis, literally. And of course, when I was young, I was just sat fascinated and listened, because they were, um, I was just thought they were the greatest stories, and of course believed them, I guess. But I wish I'd sat down and got to hear those one more time and written them down. My dad was the last of his generation in my family. Yeah, that's kind of how this is. I have one of my dad's sisters is still living, but she was quite a bit younger than the rest of the family. I mean, I don't know how many years exactly, but growing up, it felt like she was not, I think she's about 10 years older than me. And of course, the rest of them were 20 plus years older than me. So it made it, so she almost feels like she almost felt like a cousin rather than an aunt. And so she's still here. And so they're not all gone, but just about. And that does make me sad to think about. That generation, I think, was the strongest and most adventurous. Well, they certainly went through a lot, Tina. Um, and you may be right. I think in many ways you are right, and I guess time will tell our generation or whatever what parts of it will be similar or not at all, or um, but yeah, that generation definitely went through. I think it had a lot to do with but when they were born and what they lived through as children, a lot of them. And I mean, your father, my father, I don't know how old your father was, but um, and most of all my friends and the people I grew up with, they all grew up during the Depression, and it was that in itself was such a huge. I don't even know how to describe it. It was such a. I can't imagine what that was like for some to go through as children, because you wouldn't understand a lot of it. My dad was, let's see, dad was born a few months after the Depression hit. Well, no, 6 months. That was 29, and he was born in 30. Um, and they were rural rural folks. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it hit different families in different ways. But Tina said he was 94 when he died. His birthday was yesterday. Oh, well, Tina, here's to thinking about your dad. Um, Dad was 90. In fact, he just turned 90 a few days before he passed away. Aunt Kitten was 92. Um, let's see, that means she was about. Now you probably can. Was I muted? I'm sorry. I think I accidentally hit the mute button and didn't realize it. Well, yeah, and Tina, one more thought. There's a reason why they called them the greatest generation. Well, I think I was muted, but I didn't. I was just sitting here talking. I didn't realize I had something popped up on my screen that said you've lost connection with your microphone. And I didn't even realize I had. Let's see, what's Julie saying about years? Julie, I either missed something or I'm not sure what you're. And thank everyone for your comments and wishes, or I don't know what's the right word. Thank you anyway. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. Um, Oh yes, I got. Okay, Julie, thank you. I got. I know what you're saying now. Um, I don't know. It makes you. I guess it makes you think about. Yeah, condolences. Thank you, Tina. I don't know why I didn't think of that. You said it. Um, I don't know. I guess it's you can almost can't help but stop and think about your own mortality or your own sense of place in time and history and all that, but I always end up feeling like, wow, there was so much I remember and so much I've forgotten and so many things I didn't think to ask in time. And that's the part that always, I don't know, doesn't drive me crazy. I guess it's not the right word, but I would say that it drives me crazy because I should have thought to ask. I had moved, I lived in Nashville for 15 years, 16, 15 years, something like that. And in the 80s and 90s. And I missed a lot of time with family. When I came back, I had just started, and I had been writing when I was in Nashville. I'd started writing and trying to document some of that kind of thing. And I had just gotten back to where I was visiting my uncles, and it seemed like they all passed away, and it was too late. So don't wait. If you still got time, don't wait. Ask the questions. Ask them while you can. Write them down right then, because if we don't write it down, I'm afraid our kids and their kids just aren't gonna. It's gonna be lost. I really, I don't want to say they don't care, but I think there's a different appreciation or lack thereof of those kind of details. Anyway, I was proud of my girls last week. I'll talk about that since I'm thinking about it. Jennifer, our oldest, who has now her and Kelly both do work together, but I think the business technically is Jennifer's, and but that's details I'm not always privy to. But anyway, they'd had a big sale, and it was one that I bought some books. In fact, this is one of my. I'll show you this one in a minute that I picked up from that auction, and she showed me a letter they'd gotten from the family, thanking them for what they'd done, and it was like a letter of recommendation, I guess. And I was really proud to know that my daughters did that kind of work for people and took it seriously and respectfully. I think was the thing that I always wanted to, raise my kids to be respectful and understand some of that kind of stuff, even if they didn't always act like it. And it makes me proud to know that they did. They were listening, and so they got this really glowing letter of recommendation from these folks about how much work they'd put out, how hard they'd worked to get the sale and to hold the auction and take care of everything and just help the family work through something that's never easy to do. And I was quite proud of them for that. Anyway, she sent me that a few days ago. I'm assuming she will post it on her website. And since I'm shamelessly plugging their business, it's called Primrose Auctions and Appraisals. And I can even put a link in it. I don't think they've got anything going on right now. But you never know what you might find if you look there. They have some quite interesting. Hang on just one moment. I'm having trouble. I'm having to sign into everything right now. And I don't know some of them I don't know why. Okay, Primrose, I agree. Let's close that. Wow, this is about to make me mad. Yeah, I don't think they've got anything. And anyway, Oh, there we go. Now I'm on the right page. Yeah, they don't have anything right now. But you guys know I love my books, and I covered up the screen. So, as part of that auction, I actually knew the gentleman briefly that had passed that they were doing the auction for. He worked for TVA also years before I did. He'd retired before I got there, but he had a lot of really interesting books about history and things, and some authors that I really liked. So, and this is one of the things I picked up. I picked up this book. And what's really cool about this book is what it says right here. This is an autographed edition of The Long Trail by Kermit Roosevelt. Good morning, T-Town Mary Ellen. How are you today? We were about ready to do a show, and my co-host his power went off. So I was sitting here killing a little bit of time, hoping he was going to get back, and I'm not sure he's going to make it. So I'm probably going to either continue or do something fun here in a minute. Anyway, I got this book, and I honestly I didn't realize when I actually first bought it that it said on the front cover that it was an autographed edition. But I knew it was autographed because she had put that in the sale information. And there's Mr. Kermit Roosevelt's signature. Kermit was one of Theodore Roosevelt's children, and he traveled with his father a great deal at different points of his life. And turns out that this book is an excerpt from another book that he had written along with his father. And that book was called The Happy Hunting Grounds. And I don't know what year it was published, but there's a little piece in there where it talked about they convinced Kermit to write this outtake or this little bit of pull from that book and into a separate book where he added some details and things that weren't in the original book. And I don't know, did I read this? Did I read a page from this already? I may have. So you guys may know all this. I may be just repeating myself. But anyway, it's one of the things I got quite happy with that. Now, and you can't see it, but I also put a big old snowflake on top of my Christmas tree. See it right there? It's white, so it's kind of hard to see, I guess. Maybe you guys can see it. Tim's been talking about Kermit more than they did at the Hollywood Studios right now. Man, wrong Kermit. But yeah, I guess I've talked about Kermit too much. I have talked about him, I know. And I guess I did talk about the book probably last week. But so what else have I missed here? Thanks, Ian. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's not mine originally. Let's see what else I missed here. Well, I don't even see what I missed. Lots of people saying hi to Mary Ellen. Kids always have better manners at someone else's dinner table because of the manners learned at your own. Yeah, I think it hits us. I guess when I see it from somebody else, I realize, that, some of it took, if you will. And Tina said something else too. Maybe it was that. Well, oh, yeah, John. Well, I think she came up, she posted the link for that. And I don't know what, for some reason, I knew Freddie was gone. Not that that had anything to do with it, but I got the impression she might not have had somebody with her. It turns out Dean wasn't there. So I thought, well, shoot, the last time I was on Mary Ellen's show, I had fun. So I thought, well, I'll volunteer to go on. And turns out she had a full house. So, but it's always, Mary Ellen's show's always fun to me. I enjoy it every week. So there you go. Probably much more entertaining than coming here in reverse. But, I've always wanted to have a little bit of fun, and we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk about things that, Mark and I grew up doing and all kinds of stuff. But originally, once I got going on this show, I always wanted to be I'm not saying I'm a teacher, but I always wanted to, have new things and help people know, maybe learn about something they didn't know about. And that's why I always want to talk about stuff I know, history, animals, wildlife, environmental stuff, that kind of thing. So that's what we do. Well, thank you, Mary Ellen. Like I said, I do. I've enjoyed it the times I've been there, and even when I don't always know how to keep score, I still have a good time. And I didn't ask. Hopefully, Dean's okay. I don't know if he was ill or if there was something else, but that's a good combination. You and Dean make a good team in that regard. I've never met either one of you, but I think I think you do well co-hosting the show. My goodness, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether to wait on him anymore or not. I was going. I'll just go, and so let me pull this up. Okay, so Dean made it early. Oh, and didn't want anyone to know, but people now can know now. Well, good for him. I would like to do that myself. Brenda and I keep talking about maybe just, up and going and staying for a few days just because we haven't been in ages. Uh-oh. So Mark does have propane heat, but he has to have electricity for it to operate. So I don't know what they'll do for heat. Fortunately, today it's only about 32 degrees or 30 degrees. It's not 20 below like it could be out there. So hopefully they'll get that fixed. I don't know if he's got a generator or not. I think it wouldn't take much electricity to run. Well, you'd probably have to run a fan and whatever relays are involved in the, turning on the gas on and off. I'm sure there's an emergency shut off that probably defaults to closed when the fire goes out for any reason. So I don't know. Anyway, hopefully they'll get back up to speed soon. So I was going to go ahead and open up. One of the things I was going to do when I originally created the show was I had come across something else, and I thought, this will be a good topic or a good merge for me because of just me being who I am. So let me see if I can open this. Okay, everything's backwards. Hang on. I've had an awful time with my system this morning and getting the show working. I had forgotten to create the thumbnail and post it online till this morning. That's what happens for me when I think I've got everything done, and then I realize, well, I don't have anything done because I thought I had it done and then I forget. So I have to get back to my errands. Okay, Mary Ellen, thanks for coming by. Have a great day. only a Wyoming man would say. Fortunately, it's only 30 degrees. Yeah, well, he was talking about how warm it was today. So, uh, it's that dry cold. Yeah, he don't really start complaining until it. Although I heard him complain a little bit earlier this morning because he's got some in part of his damage from falling. He hurt his shoulder and he was and it, what do you call it? This is not hay season. Anyway, this is the time of year they have to go out and make sure they feed horses extra hay and all that because of the weather and so he's having to heal up enough to do that. And he's talking about how the cold's kind of making him hurt. To which I sort of chuckled and told him, "Welcome, join the club." So there you go. So anyway, I didn't turn this on, and I'll get this right yet, guys. Just hang on. There you go. So you should be able to see that now. I hope. What I had wanted to talk about, and this was back before Mark was not going to be able to, wasn't with us, was something called the copper culture or the copper complex, which I think is an odd way to put it, that occurred in North America, or what's now North America, at somewhere in the neighborhood of 13,000 years ago. Before, and some of this is coming to light now. And this is what's so great about exploration and some of the things that people are still working on is we keep learning about things like this. I had never really heard about this before, and even though we've touched on it indirectly, and you'll see why in a minute, I didn't know about all the other stuff. But it turns out that the copper culture in this part of the world actually preceded European use of copper to make bronze and to learn it because they had to, and there's a good reason for that. I'll explain that in a minute. Let me get on into the next slide here. The usual stuff, hit the like button if you don't mind, and if you do mind, that's okay. You don't have to. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and so there. But first thing I want to do, I usually do some kind of intro thing. So, Mark and I have talked a lot about invasive species and invasive birds and things. And one of the birds he dislikes almost more than anything is the house sparrow, which is the bird on the right. And one of my least favorite birds has always been the European or common starling, which is the bird on the left. And both of those birds came from England or Europe, and they were brought over here, either late in the 1800s or early 1900s, because homesick expat Brits missed their birds. They missed the singing, they missed the songs, and starlings can be quite vocal. In fact, if you ever go online, there's one called Inky or Inky Black or something like that. It's a starling that's very, very talented when it comes to whistling and communicating with humans. It's fascinating, but I don't like them. They're non-native. They were very disruptive in native bird nesting and things, and they are horrible about building nests in places they should not be, such as in the engine nacelles, cowlings, inspection panels, gear wells, control surface gaps of airplanes. And I can't tell you how many times we've had to clean those things out to make an airplane airworthy again because they built nests in every little nook and cranny they can find. Not to mention in the hangar and everywhere else you can think of. And both of them are very prolific Brenda and I had a pair of house sparrows that decided to take up a residence in one of our bluebird boxes this summer or this spring, last spring. And we believe that if we counted them, if we were able to count them correctly, that they raised at least 3 and maybe 4 broods of young this year. So we went from like 2 birds to, I don't know, 30 something in just one nest. They used the same nest over and over again. And they just kept procreating and to the point where I thought, wow, I just, so if somebody says, birds nest once a year to you, say, man, not always. They're very opportunistic. And some birds, like these guys, will, starlings not so much of re-nesting, but the sparrows will nest as often as long as the weather permits and they've got a place to do it. At least 3, Tina, but sometimes 5 to 6. That depends. And I didn't look the exact numbers up, but it varies. Not as many as like ducks and things. I mean, ducks can have anywhere from like 10 to 20 eggs in a clutch. Now these guys don't do that, but ducks usually only lay eggs once in a season. If a nest gets disturbed and the eggs are broken and they can re-nest, sometimes they'll go again. But these guys will just nest and nest and nest and nest. They just, move in. So next year, and they all tend to come back here. They may leave for the winter, or at least for a little while, but when they come back, they'll probably all here. So we'll probably have all their babies and all their new girlfriends and boyfriends, and pretty soon I'll be doing like Mark does. I'll have to put up nets to catch them. And we both have discussed just, embracing the fact that they live here now and just being okay with it, but we haven't. But, and this is where the subject came up, and I can't remember what triggered this, but I found this information. But, so these birds came from Europe or England. The Brits brought them over here, ex-Brits. However, we got one over on them ourselves. Starlings took over our bird feeders yesterday. Yeah, this time of year especially, they're flocked up. I've never seen blue jays be intimidated before. Oh, they can be pretty, and they just outnumber them. I mean, but they're real bad about taking over nests. They'll find a nest if they can get in it. If the access hole is, that's why you have to be real specific about nest boxes for certain birds. If you keep the hole small enough, birds like starlings can't get in them, and they won't mess with the nest. But if they can get in, they'll lay their own eggs in there. They'll knock out the other bird's eggs. I mean, there's all kinds of nasty things they can do. But we got 2 birds. They got our gray squirrels because gray squirrels were taken to Europe and to England, and because people that lived on estates and had property thought this would be really cool. We'll have gray squirrels. Well, they were introduced there in about 1876. And the sad part about them is, and this is what happened here with some of our birds, gray squirrels are large. Britain has a native red squirrel, which is that fellow in the right. And they're not as big as grays, and grays are much more aggressive than the reds, and they have basically all but taken over all the habitat of the native red squirrels. So it just so happens that they have created this whole new group of assassins over there who are out to get rid of the gray squirrels. And there's like a newly formed gray squirrel hunters groups around the country, I guess. I'm not sure they're official. I'm not even sure I don't even know what all the laws are about it. But, they're much stricter on gun control. So you can't have a lot of things, but you can have shotguns, it seems. And that lady in that picture is shooting a high-powered air gun, pellet rifle kind of a thing. but they're trying to kill the gray squirrels now because they're killing the red squirrels, and the red squirrels are in danger, or to the point where they're seriously threatened. So there's some areas the government has tried to seclude them and trying to protect them. And this group of civilian vigilantes has formed, and their motto is kill, 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 kill them all. So, like I said, they brought their birds over here, and we sent our gray squirrels over there, and the gray squirrels are just bullies compared to the red squirrels. So, well, good morning, Miss Brenda. Nice of you to join us. You just missed Mark. He was on here, and their power went off. So I'm not sure if he's going to make it back. So we're talking about my show a little bit. What time is it? It's 11:15. I don't know. I may still try to save the rest of it, guys. I'll touch on it, but I know Mark wants to get in on this discussion, so I'd really like to. Maybe next week it'll work out. But anyway, we'll talk about some other stuff here for a minute. But I did want to talk about this. I'll have to take this out before I do the show again, or finish it, show the rest of it. But we've complained for years about those two birds, and now I learned that these gentlemen right here are really raising hell over there. So we're getting even. They're paying for their indiscretions, and just like we have. But it's become such a thing that now there are people out there encouraging people to dine on them. So much like we've talked about squirrel cook-offs and squirrel barbecues and squirrel everything, they're starting to do the same thing over there. And there's actually a company called the Wild Meat Company who, in Great Britain, I don't know what kind of regulations, I don't know how they're monitored, but they still are allowed to sell wild game, or cook it and eat it in restaurants and things. Over here it's much more, we haven't done that in a long time. That kind of thing actually led to the extinction of some of our birds, like the passenger pigeon. One of the main reasons we lost no passenger pigeons aren't here was a loss of habitat, yes, but they also killed hundreds of thousands of them for the market, and they were a delicacy in places and restaurants all over the Northeast. But anyway, so there's chefs over there now who are trying to specialize in squirrel and encouraging people to eat them, and they're selling the meat. So the Wild Meat Company, you can get your squirrel there. And I don't know what that is. That's a piece of squirrel meat, but it's like a standing rib roast of squirrel, I guess. But I don't know what the rest of that is. I don't even want to imagine what this puree of orange yellow stuff is. So here's what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to try to save it for one more week. But we're going to talk about the copper culture and just what it meant to North American civilization, and then the fact that it kind of disappeared. And that's why I don't know, maybe that's why we don't hear much about it. It went from being of them making weapons, and just like in Europe, spearheads and knives and other things, only they learned how to work pure copper, which is something not the Brits, but the Europeans didn't have. They didn't have pure copper, which is probably why we beat them to the punch, or North Americans beat them to the punch. They were able to work this pure copper and do things with it that the Europeans had to learn how to smelt and extract the ore from rocks and the other, mine tailings, whatever. When they dug it up, they had to learn how to extract it. Over here, because of the glacial period and other things that happened under the ground, natives over here had pure copper to work with, just literally laying on the ground in Michigan and Wisconsin and certain parts of southern Canada and Minnesota. And that's where it came from. And it got traded all over the country. And eventually, as I said, it kind of came and then went. And then, other things happened here, but it became ornamental rather than utilitarian. So anyway, well, I'm going to save that again. I apologize, guys. And I apologize for boring you to tears once again. But I'm going to see if I can't save that one more week. And maybe, all right, I got stuff here. I can't, there it goes. You know what, Tina? I've never heard anybody say that British cuisine is all that inspiring or inspired. In fact, I remember watching shows on TV, where these chefs would travel the world and they go different places to eat, and they talk about what a country's most unique things were and things they specialized in. And they go to England and it was like mashed potatoes and beans, maybe, because that's their food tends to be very simple. And but they obviously do have fine chefs and things, but it's that's just kind of funny. Well, Brenda, we were doing pretty good. We were going along pretty good, and then boom, Mark just disappeared. He just went poof. And he sent me a text, said electricity was out, and he sent me another text. I don't know if you were in here or not when I said this, but the man don't have any heat. They have propane heaters, but they need electricity to operate the propane heater. So I don't know what they'll do. He's never mentioned to me if he's got a generator. And I don't remember seeing one out there. He might have had one in the barn. I just never saw it. Like I said, it probably wouldn't take a very big generator to run that propane heater, but I don't know what that house. I could imagine water pipes freezing and busting, and if it's 30 degrees right now, it will be colder tonight. Once that sun goes down out there, that temperature drops fast. Mushy peas, yes, I've heard of mushy peas, Ian. And they eat beans, they like. Don't get me wrong. Now I like beans. I grew up eating beans and potatoes, cornbread and soup beans 2 or 3 nights a week, usually growing up. But they eat beans like breakfast, lunch, dinner. Oh, there he is. He just made it back. Dun, 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 dun. There you are.
Miracle workers.
What happened to your electricity? No idea.
Electrical stuff. I suspect frozen snow on power lines or on a transformer or something. It was about half the people in Kimmer and all of us out here.
But it wasn't they weren't out near you climbing poles looking for you don't know any of that. It just came back on, huh?
Yeah.
So how long? I noticed you've got a coat on now. I don't think you had that on earlier, did you?
I did not. The wind's blowing hard enough that it's cooling down pretty quickly.
I kind of figured it. I was just sort of going over that I didn't think it'd be too long.
Well, they told me 5 o'clock tonight.
Do what?
I called them and they told me don't expect power till 5 p.m.
Ooh. You could get pretty cold by then.
Yeah, it'd be chilly. I was telling Caitlin, don't be going in and out of doors and close that room up.
Yep. Do you have a generator or anything for when that happens?
No, we got a little wood stove in the kitchen. We'd have to do some. We use it mostly for decor and storage, and so I'd have to do some.
I mentioned that
moving about.
Well, since you made it back,
Well, I got plenty of fuel,
well, that's good.
coal and wood.
Oh,
So
you said you had coal left over from when they were there before, didn't you?
yeah, they use coal in the or in the kitchen stove, which is what I'm talking about. One of those big old majestic stoves,
Yeah, right.
and then they ran the furnace for the house was a stoker furnace. Now I'm like, I lived through that. I'm not doing that again.
Okay, so since you made it back, I was just about to not do my show, but since you're here, we can try to talk about it. Well, unless we want to save it. It is 11:30. Um, but one thing I will tell you about real quick. You missed this part. I was pointing out. I don't know why this came up, but I
Nope.
made the show 2 or 3 weeks ago, and something came up in my feeds or something I read and made me think of this. But we've complained for years, you and I, a lot about starlings and house sparrows and their importation from Great Britain and Europe in general, and how they've taken over so many places, like your chicken house, for example.
Well, the first one there was brought on purpose.
Oh, I know it was on. I know it was brought to sing.
All the birds of Shakespeare that were
Yeah.
mentioned in Shakespeare, he brought them to New York City and turned them loose.
Turned them loose. Well, so we've talked
It
about
didn't take too long for them to conquer a continent, I can tell you that.
this,
Faster than Europeans.
but we got a little bit of revenge. I was pointing out the fact that we got those birds, but they got our gray squirrels. And the gray squirrels apparently have gotten to the point now in the UK at least that they've just about eliminated the red squirrel, which is not good. I'm not laughing about that. Um, Apparently the red squirrel population over there is really bad shape. And so much so that there are these vigilante groups. They don't call them that, but I do. They're gray squirrel hunters now, whose motto is "kill them, kill them, kill them all." And that this picture is an example of one of those hunters using an air rifle. The air rifle, pellet rifles, high powered ones are what they're using mostly. That and shotguns, but they've opened whatever department in Britain runs their wildlife type stuff. They've opened season on them pretty much, and they're like trying to. They know they're not going to eliminate them. It's kind of like us talking about the birds. We might as well embrace them because they're not ever going to go away completely. Well, they know they can't do that, but they are seriously trying to knock the population back. And they were encouraging people to eat them, and to companies like the Wild Meat Company have been created, and they're actually selling wild game, and they've added squirrel to their list.
Well, I know there was a team from Great Britain that participated in one of the Arkansas squirrel cook-offs here the last few years.
Oh, he might have taken that back then. Information. So anyway, that's where we were at, and then I'd gotten to this, and this was the copper culture, which is what I've been trying to talk about. So, I'll let you be in on this decision. This is a topic that I'm pretty sure you and I are going to probably talk about in length, so we can save it. That we've got a full show if you want. I've held on to it for a couple of weeks, and I can hold it another week, or we can go ahead and talk about it some and just see where we land. But I think this is going to be an interesting topic for us, at least, and it's pretty fascinating how they use copper, where they found it, how it spread, and the fact that their use of copper predated European use. I was telling these folks one of the reasons is the copper that they were getting here was basically pure copper, pure copper. Whereas, in deposits around the world, generally speaking, it was, you know, they had to learn how to smelt it and do all that stuff and get it extracted before they could turn it into something like bronze and use it. Um, Apparently, the copper that was found in the Great Lakes area of North America was the purest form of copper anywhere on the planet, which
And the
is
largest deposit of
and the
copper.
largest deposits. Yeah, and you know, they learned how to work it and use it and make it at least somewhat useful to them long before they and it actually moved on. You know, I've mentioned this before too about it became an ornamental thing as opposed to weapons and knives and tools, um, and was out of fashion by the time Europeans got here. You know, and later on, and things had shifted over to different using flint. I think that's unique, odd, and unique that they, you know, kind of went to copper and then it went to something else, and then, you know, either back to flint. I would imagine back to flint, and maybe they got even better at, you know, napping and learning how to make things out of flint. And, but anyway, the copper culture was come and gone by the time Europeans got here. And in fact, probably by the time the Europeans learned how to use it in Europe,
Well, I've often I would bet that while this was going on, there were still plenty of people out there using stone tools.
oh, I'm sure, and they were using stone tools to work this stuff. I
But
mean,
I mean,
you know, they were using stone hammers.
making stone projectile points even in this area
Oh, yeah, probably.
when this was going on.
But you know, they've got sites in North America now where they predate European use by maybe as much as 3 or 4 thousand years, which is, you know, quite a long.
Hey, no
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we got.
Uh-oh.
I'll be right back.
All right. I heard the word horses being used, so I bet dogs are messing with the horses. Anyway, guys, you tell me what you think. You know, I know people have some things to do today. I don't want to. I've got a few things I probably ought to do. Brenda's going to tell me I need to take trash and do things like that. And I'm going to have to open my door. It's actually getting warm in here. Yesterday it was cold. Today it's too hot. Electrical stuff. Yeah, Tina, it was electrical stuff. Oh, me. Maybe the gods are trying to tell me I'm not supposed to talk about copper culture. Yeah, well, I've got a few things I'd like to do too, so I'm probably not going to go all the way into this. Maybe next week I'll get a head start and nothing will happen, and we'll make it through this. And I'll be able to spend. I just know we'll spend time talking about it, and I don't want to rush it too much. Well, we can. All right. When he gets back in here, we'll do. Well, in fact, I'll go ahead and move on a little bit because Carol, there he is. Because specifically in your case, the area of the country you live in was basically the epicenter of this whole thing, from parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, southern Canada, Winnipeg area. That's where a lot of these deposits were found. And just like many other things, over time, it became a valuable commodity, and it was traded all around the country. It's another one of those things that, you know, you might find you found it eventually in the Mississippian culture and in the deep South, and you might have found it in Florida, but it didn't come from there. It all came from up around the Great Lakes. That's where the deposits were. And literally, I guess they found this stuff practically laying on the ground in spots. And glacial deposits, and I've got a picture in a moment, They just found big nuggets of copper, and they learned to pick that up. And some enterprising soul figured out a way to hammer it into a tool, and they began to use it. The let me pull my notes up. I told Brenda the other day I was going to do this right if I did this. I want to try to do as good a job as I can now. There they are. So, the copper complex of the Western Great Lakes, basically, let me move this so I can see when he comes back. They've dated it back so far to somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 years ago. That's some of the artifacts they found that they've been able to date. And dating has improved, so they've been able to actually adjust those figures forward and back a little bit over time. The Great Lake natives of the Archaic period located 99% pure copper near Lake Superior. 99% pure. That's you don't find that a lot in nature when things pop up. It's kind of like finding gold deposits or something. In some cases, gold's not that. You have to work hard to get the gold out of the ground. And this stuff was in large veins, in some cases just like, and it was, thank the glaciers for that. I grew up hearing about black gold, Texas tea. I probably watched a bit too much TV. Well, it could have been in this case, it was copper gold or red gold, maybe. I mean, great fortunes, I'm sure, were made and probably lost and created, especially when the Industrial Revolution hit. All the copper that was used in electrical motors and windings and all kinds of electrical things, wire across the nation. I mean, it's hard to fathom how many tons and millions of tons of copper we've used since then. Were dug mostly out of the country around the Great Lakes. That's where most of it came from. They did. I mean, they found it in other places, but the ore is not like it was there. I mean, like I said, 99% pure. That's pretty dang good. I got a picture here. It says they found it in veins exposed, even on the surface, and nuggets lying in the gravel beds. If you've ever seen a glacial moraine area, or like I know where Mark's dad lives and where they're from, they have pea gravel quarries up there, and it's just, it's left over from the southern march of the glaciers and where they deposited things along the way. And, you got millions and millions of tons of ice scraping the ground and creating pea gravel, and they dumped it all in pits up there. And, they dig it up and shovel it and put it in little bags, and we put it in our gardens now. Up there, they use pea gravel like we use limestone gravel down here or something. It's just, but anyway, it's another result of the glacial movement. And natives began to learn how to manipulate this stuff. They learned how to hammer it into useful tools. Let's see here. Let me get people. And then, like I said before, they began to trade it. And then eventually it became a more ornamental thing. It became jewelry. And some of the most prized and treasured jewelry of the Mississippian culture in the South was made of copper. And it's because they learned how to mold it, to use it, but they became, I mean, in some ways it's more like gold. We want gold for its ornamental value. Copper became that sort of thing at one time, in a sense, and it was no longer used, for tools. But copper is a soft metal, soft mineral, whatever, compared to steel or iron or even bronze, I guess, in its purest form. I mean, it's pretty soft. But they learned how to use it, how to work it, and they, instead of heat treating it to a hardness, they learned to work it cold and create what's the word I'm looking for? Work harden it, and they actually were able to, create swords and knives and things that, while not, they still had to be probably resharpened a lot, but it was better than what a lot of people realized. I mean, they were actually usable. Uh, Copper is odd because you can treat it like, if you treat it like steel, where you heat it and then quench it in water, whereas steel gets hard. You do that. Copper gets soft when you do that. One,
Annealing.
do what?
Annealing.
Annealing, yes.
You heat it and let it cool. Heat it and let it cool. Heat it and let it cool.
Well, you can heat it and let it cool it in water and make it even. Does even different things, and both ways make it softer.
When they worked it cold,
Yeah,
it was brittle.
yeah, it would get brittle. Yeah.
Which wouldn't be any different than like a stone tool, but
Well, or some steel. I mean, steel gets brittle if it's too hard.
yeah.
But it's still more durable than copper was, and that's why that's why we moved on.
Mr. Dillon, of Bob fame, he's from that copper country. That's why all of his people were associated with the copper mines up there in that same part of the world.
Huh.
They're up southern. Well, he was from Hibbing, I think, but southern Minnesota, and then all the way around to the western shore of the Great Lakes was heavily.
So my notes talk about, by heating, annealing, and hammering, they learned how to work copper into shapes and make everything from spear points, tools.
Excuse me.
Of course, in addition to their own use, the copper complex peoples traded it, far and wide. And by about 3,000 years ago, it became just mainly jewelry. And then Wisconsin, there is a state park that's called the Copper Culture State Park. It's in Oconto, which is in northeastern Wisconsin. And it contained that they found an ancient burial ground there. And the burial site was found in 1952 by a 13-year-old boy, like one of us out there digging. And he found some human bones, and as they excavated the site and studied it, they found all this copper stuff, and a lot of that's on display. I've got a couple pictures here in a minute. So that this whole park is basically dedicated to that. And up until, they'd been mining copper and using it out of those mines for a couple hundred years by then, but they didn't realize some of this stuff until they dug this side up. So these are a few of those points, and this area is what's known as this is a historic or a archaic lake, and they call it the Glacial Lake Agassiz. Let me see if I got this right. Agassiz.
One more time. Say that one more time.
That's it. That's the last time I'm going to say. Anyway, they've dated these tools that they found there back at least 10,000 years or 11,000 years.
So that my screen's little, but that artifact at the bottom left for me, with the green background. Was that a projectile point?
They think so. Yes. Some kind of
it's
a knife. They found both, and it didn't specify that one. I'm sure if you went to that museum, it probably describes it in detail.
That is amazing to me how close that is to what we in the West would call, especially in the north and in the northern plains, would call a Hell Gap point, because that's where it was first found. And it's The wide part of that blade is forward. So the shaft is the bottom of that photograph, and where you would affix it to your battle dart.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, they're shaped exactly just like that. And people are always moving about and trading stuff. And
now I can hear you better. So let me see what I've got some notes here hidden. That Paleo Lake or Paleo period, 8,000 BC. What's that?
oh, Ian.
What'd he say? That's right, Ian. I'm not even going to say what I'm thinking. And this is just some more. This is where that park is located. And these are some of the artifacts that they found in that grave site. And you can see all kinds of cone-shaped projectile points or tips or spear tips. Call them what you will, but that's what they're for. But if you look, you also see other things like sickles and things they were using to harvest maybe wild rice or grain with. And in that picture in the top, the map, above the map, you can see what is this basically a long knife or a sword. And that's something else that they dug up and found up there somewhere. And
cool.
you know, they were actually functioning weapons, and they were cold. They were cold work till they were hardened, and they were usable. I mean, they weren't the same thing they'd have later with by blending it and turning it into bronze, but it was pretty close to the same thing, and it was 3,000 years before they learned how to make bronze in Europe. So anyway,
so where's the southeast boundary of that? Is that the distribution of artifacts they found out of this kind of copper?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. Yeah, mostly this is the whole area, but I think this also covers the large part of the area where they found the some of the copper. Most of the copper was found right around the Great Lakes, but some areas were spread out a little bit past that. But yeah, this is basically the main distribution. But once they got to making it, of course, they spread it all over the place.
Well, that's what I was asking, if that was like where they have collected artifacts, or if
yes, I believe it is.
Because as you and I talked about, I think yesterday, south of that line, south down the coast, well, it was inland, but not too far from the coast, I guess in the Piedmont country in Virginia and North Carolina, they have found pits where they were digging copper. It wasn't the good stuff like this,
right?
But it was during the same time period. And there's at least one tale that when the Roanoke colony disappeared, part of them went with the Croatoans down to what is basically Hatteras Island now, and lived there the rest of their lives among those people. But blended in and became Croatoans eventually. And then part of the party went west up toward the mountains.
Excuse me.
And they think that Virginia Dare, she would have been she was just a little, girl. They think she and her parents maybe perished on the journey, but they went to the Eno villages, which were a very small tribe associated with the Catawbas, and they went. One of the duties they did, or one of the things they helped out with, was mining and annealing and all the things you did with the copper, but it wasn't near as good a copper as the stuff to the north.
Right. And the thing is, it was harder to obtain too. Like you said, they found pits, they were digging it.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff in the north was laying in gravel beds that had been left by the glaciers, or just in veins, just literally exposed on top of
It was
the
just
ground.
like where the glacier rock scoured
Right.
and
Yeah,
ice.
scoured everything above it, which still fascinates me. The whole idea of glaciers grinding, the earth below it. So anyway, I'm not sure about that map. I got another map coming up. Some of this was, they confused some of this between that park and the exhibits they have there, and another. Milwaukee also has a museum that has a lot of artifacts in it that were collected by the state, I guess, up there, and or maybe somebody else. I don't know, because it's in Milwaukee, not the state. It's proper, and it's a city museum, but they've got a lot of stuff too. And that's just basically a picture of the same stuff, as you can tell. This state park I'm talking about, if you're ever up that way, is right on the shore of Lake Michigan, and about the middle of the ways. This roughly is where it's at. I created this map and put the arrow on it. This plaque is posted there, and has a lot of this information about it. It says the park contains an ancient burial ground used by the old copper complex culture. They use both words. They swap complex and culture back and forth a lot in all these articles of early Native Americans between 5,000 and 6,000 BCE. During the Copper Age, it was rediscovered in June 1952 by a 13-year-old boy. I told you about that part. He was playing in an old quarry, it turns out. And that's all I've got there. Let me see if I got any other notes down here real quick. No, it's more about the times and the dates that might be repeated.
Jump back real quick. One slide.
One slide.
One slide. So those tools on the top there, kind of between that
up in here,
that lance point and the whatever that, I don't even know what that butterfly shaped thing is.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's hard to.
All those pointed, long, skinny, pointed items are awls.
Yeah,
Not all like that, but all.
AWL all.
And
say that, Ian.
Apparently, that is the tool that lasted longest out of this copper. I mean, that's the tool
that's interesting.
That's the tool that the people that inherited this tradition kept in service the longest, were these awls, because they performed better than a bone awl or an antler.
Well, they wouldn't have worn out like a spear point or an axe or a hammer made out of this same material would have. An awl, because of the fact that it's being used mostly in leather or hides or that sort of thing, is not going to the wear and tear on it's not going to be as bad. So I could see why they would last a long time.
Well, there's a faction of flint knappers, modern flint knappers that are, they're always they're always, I don't know what you'd call them, lay scientists that, they're these people that are making points that how they think they were made based on the tools they have found. And with modern flint knappers, copper is very popular as a flint knapping tool, both for billets, which would be a heavy duty thing with copper on the end that you strike the stone with, or for pressure flakers, which it would be like an antler handle with a piece of copper in the end of it, just rounded copper that you pressure flake. to take off smaller flakes and to sharpen your points and that. So there's quite the discussion that, well, the native peoples never had copper to use for flint knapping tools. And it looks like they may have been, that in this country, at least in this part of the world, they probably did use it as
Well,
tools.
think about some of these tools up along this, like this, where my cursor is. That one, especially besides the butterfly thing here, doesn't look like a dart tip or a projectile tip. That looks to me like something that would be stuck on an antler tip and used for that very purpose. It looks more like that kind of a tool to me,
Right.
which makes sense.
Anyway,
I think I asked you one time about that if you ever used it. I'd read that, I knew that they use, some people today use copper, and I'd ask you one time, I think, if you'd ever tried it. I couldn't remember if you had or not, but
yeah, and I started using, like most modern knappers, I started out using copper.
Oh, okay.
And the tools are, you can buy them ready made, and they're, as knapping goes, they're a pretty forgiving tool. And then I got to the point where I'm like, well, there's hammer stones everywhere and antler billets everywhere in America, and ivory billets from when there were, big creatures running around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I'm done with copper. I'm just going to use the old stuff.
Well, it also would make sense.
Probably done my body good.
Well, it also would make sense that you might not find these, you might not always find some of these tools in a cache of other stuff because it was valuable and they probably took the copper with them, or maybe even turned it into something ornamental if they decided to if they found something that worked better, because it became useful for other things. They wouldn't have just discarded it, I don't think. And copper was something that, unlike flint, which you nap down to a certain point and then, you don't have anything left to nap, copper could just be rebeat into a new shape and could be used, over and over again. And I have a little film. I may show it. I'd actually written the guy and asked him if I could use it briefly. And he shows how he works copper. An example, it's just a real short thing. He shows how he anneals it and works it. Oh, I know what I was going to say a minute ago. One of the first things that you learn in aircraft school, or one of the things they teach you in aircraft school, is, or at least they used to, jet engines and stuff have taken over, but reciprocating engines have spark plugs. Spark plugs in airplanes, and they probably did, it used to in cars too, I'm sure they don't anymore, but they had a copper gasket on them, or a copper washer that went between the spark plug and the cylinder head. Well, over time that gets hard, and what you have to do is anneal those. You clean them up between, when you use them over again, you clean a spark plug during an inspection, and you heat I used to have a ring in my toolbox, and I'd hang washers on it, and as I'd get them, you might have 12 at a time, and you'd heat them up, get them red hot, and then dunk them in water, and then they were soft again, and you could put them back on the spark plug, screw it down again. When you torque it that way, it gets a better seal, and it doesn't, also didn't cause the spark plug to bond to that metal of the engine, because dissimilar metals would do that. So anyway, that was one of the things you learned how to do in A&P school, was anneal copper washers. So this is a display that they have at that other museum. This is the one that's in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Public Museum, and just a little bit of a date line here about when some of these artifacts were found. And they've got this little diorama over here that kind of shows what you were talking about earlier, a different way of mining and fabricating copper. In this case, they're showing them, hard to tell if that's supposed to be inside a cave or a mine or if it's just a surface rock. But you can see how they're melting it down or beating it out of the rocks and, carrying it up to the surface and taking it away to make things. It's just a little part of their display up there. Let me see if I had something else. I think I've got a note on this. Maybe not.
Now, how much more show is there slide wise?
I've got quite a few we can talk about. So I might be getting to the point where we might want to stop and then come back to it, and I can add to it also. What are you thinking?
Where are you at? Noon?
Yeah, it's noon here.
Yeah, I don't know how long you want it to go.
I know Carol's got to leave, and she's getting ready to leave right now because we're headed across the border to Ohio. Uh-oh. Carol, have you seen that commercial where the Heisman guy's driving, and he won't go into Michigan, so they're going to go all the way around the Great Lakes to get somewhere? It's hilarious. I thought you'd appreciate that.
They go all the way around.
Yeah, they went all the way around.
Side, and he turns into a grass pasture and just starts driving.
And they show a map of it going all the way around.
Like he's in a hayfield, driving through a hayfield, heading around.
So, Carol, be careful going down in enemy territory. Actually, I think I think we'll stop here. And
let's do that. Then I can go chore horses.
Yeah, go do your chores, and I'm going to watch probably Army-Navy game. I got some stuff I need to do here, too, including help Brenda take the trash out today, and we got a couple of things we need to go pick up, so I dropped my glasses off. Try not to step on them.
How are you?
Well, anyway, guys, thanks for sticking with me, and we will complete this next time around, and I'll pull a few more slides together in the meantime. We won't talk about squirrels and starlings. That'll come out, and but we'll talk some more about copper. It's pretty fascinating. Well, I thought it was pretty fascinating stuff. You guys may or may not.
So
Army-Navy is next week, John said. Okay. I thought it was today. Do what?
How are you on temp this morning?
Temp
outside.
It was low 30s when I got up, I think. It's warm, actually. I mean, it'd been in the 20s, so it was warmer than that. And it's warm in here, so the sun's out today. It's not overcast and gloomy, which has kept it down a little bit. And it's getting really warm in this room, so I must have the heat. A couple of days ago, it was cold in here. Now it's hot, so it's hard for me to regulate the temperature. It just, my thermostats are very crude. They don't have a fine tune on them.
Trixie.
Or I haven't figured it out yet. Trixie, yep, indeed. So let me shut this down, and that button there. Let me get my glasses. Hang on just a minute. I can at least see to say bye. Oh. And I'll get with Miss Brenda, and I'll see what we're doing about trash. Well, I think I am going to stop, Tina, because we've got some other things we need to do too, and I didn't want to keep people too long today. And but we're not through with this, so we're going.
So this was part A.
I lost you.
You lost me?
Oh, I thought you were talking. I couldn't. It looked like your mouth was moving, but you weren't.
I said this is part A.
Part A, yes, this is part A. Part B will be next week.
Okay.
So you guys all have fun, Ian. I hope you can make it back, and I expect to see that slip by next week, young man, or you won't be allowed back in class. We got to have rules. If not, we'd be all living in chaos. So anyway, John, Tina, Carol, if you're still here, Ian, and whoever else might be left. No, I won't hold my breath, but okay, I promise I won't hold my breath. Anyway, guys, everybody have a great weekend. What's left of it, go watch the rodeo, go watch a football game. I know Alabama or Georgia and somebody's playing today. And I know that Michigan or Ohio and Indiana's playing. I think there's a whole bunch of championship games today. So thanks for hanging around, Jason. Come back by again. Maybe we'll finish this up sometime if you're interested. Maybe and maybe you can add to the discussion. Who knows? But anyway, everybody have a good weekend, and
We're doing good.
I'll see you real soon.
Jason to play the.
Oh yeah, we need to ask him about Zydeco music.
Do some like Cajun music.
There I go. Now I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Anyway, guys, everybody take care, and I will see you all again next week, I hope. And maybe I'll be able to talk better again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.